my very good friend, who I love to talk about various topics with, Edward Foster, and we're here in Edward's lovely gallery. Thanks for inviting me.
No, you're always welcome, and so is anybody else. But,
yeah. And it's lovely to be here with you, and we just want to have a dialogue, as we've done a number of dialogues. In the past we've talked about Owen Barfield. Some people find his work, I find it's interesting, people find his work very difficult to get a grip on.
It's a bit obscure and things as well like that, but it's very beautiful, very poetic, it's very dense, it flows a lot. So I think all great writers, thinkers have that. They have they have a tangled way of expressing themselves, but also then they suddenly come to these clear paths, and you go, oh my goodness, what a passage that is! How beautifully written! And you think, gosh, I've read that whole paragraph. In fact, that whole chapter, go to that line, and I feel like, wow, now I understand so much.
So
is that? I mean, that's what dialogues are as well, aren't they? Very much.
Yeah, I always find when we've had a dialogue, we come away richer, and my perspective has changed and shifted. What was it Bertrand Russell said? I think he said, "I'll never die for one of my ideas because I might be wrong."
He had very smelly breath, didn't he? People said that. No, we haven't thought. You are sitting quiet. Anyway, do carry on.
So yeah, we had a chat about Barfield, and I'll maybe bring Barfield back in shortly because he's very useful for this kind of discussion. And then we've talked about Ian McGilchrist's great work, The Master's Emissary, and his new book, The Matter with Things. And then we talked about our love of William Blake.
Yes, he's genius, an inspiration, I think, to any creative person. In fact, I think he's an inspiration to anyone. And when I say a creative person, actually, we're all creative. So William Blake inspires if you let him inspire. I think that's the thing about someone like that, where they teeter over the edge, but the edge has been put there by us. So he hasn't teetered over an edge at all. And maybe, we were chatting earlier about stuff, weren't we?
That's lovely.
And we were talking about what we create, our reality and things. What did you
Yeah, so I just said to Eddie before we just came on camera, I just said I'd read some Rumi, and Rumi said the Sufi, some say mysticism or mystical part of the Islam tradition, very rich. He wrote this really massive poem, which would take about a week to read if we started now, called The Masnavi. But there's in one of Rumi's poems, from one of the translations, it says, "Knowledge of the world is a kind of ignorance." Me and Eddie were just thinking about that, just when we put the cameras on.
So knowledge of the world is a kind of ignorance. What does that mean then? I mean, can we just, pull Rumi's words apart very simply? Or is that too hard?
Yeah, I mean, think about it, if you're watching this now, just think about it a minute. What does he mean by knowledge of the world is a kind of ignorance? I suppose we could say that we make concepts of reality, which are our concepts of reality. They are models of reality, but they're not really what's happening or what's going on. So I think, coming back to Barfield, he has a lovely phrase called dashboard knowledge. I think he maybe said in the appearances, I forget, where he says we have this dashboard, but it is our invention. It's not really telling us what's happening. And the problem is, and I think Barfield puts this lovely, but we're born in the car with the dashboard, and we only ever have the dials, but we take the dials as though they're telling us what's going on. Rudolf Steiner puts it nice when he says, we don't know what we see what we know.
We don't know what we see
what we know. Just think about that a minute.
So what appears to us is something that we've conceived, and then it becomes real to us.
Yeah.
In a sense.
But it's already wrong.
So it's already wrong because
it's our invention of a concept. It's a model, a theory of reality. Nietzsche said Nietzsche said science is a hypothesis.
Mm. Mm-hmm. That lovely saying, wonderful person, Nietzsche, which I love him by the way. It's beautiful. But he was on that place that Blake was in, I think. I think that you need those people to be in that place where we dare not tread or wander.
Yeah.
Because what they do there is they go into those Edens, those havens, or what we might think of as almost wild places, untamed places.
Yeah.
And they paint a picture of that place and show us through their words, their brushstrokes, their music, whatever it might be. And then, through them, we can then think, yes, that place does exist. But it doesn't necessarily mean I have to go there. Am I brave enough to go there? And then what is there? Where is there? Is it, like you say, we create that reality. So do we blind ourselves or half blind ourselves so that real reality we do not fully see? Because we don't want to see, we don't want to engage with that, because it could create turmoil within ourselves.
Mm.
But what is turmoil?
Yes.
Is turmoil truth? Is it seeing with the all-seeing eye? Is it is that not a reality then? In a sense.
Yeah, no, I think everything you said is, what's Blake says, the doors of perception were cleansed, and that's what really, I suppose, that Rumi phrase, when he says knowledge of the world is a kind of ignorance. So if we pushed it a little bit more, if you can stay with us, is this idea that we invent something outside of us called matter, which we name matter, which is all we have to be very careful here, because we're already dividing things into a multiplicity and diversity of separate objects and separate things. And we're saying that outside of us exists something called matter. And then we build our model of reality on this thing that we invent called matter.
So are you saying that we use our imagination? Or if this is the right way?
Well, yes.
We use a type of imagination to set boundaries of what we perceive. We label these different elements of the various things that are there that we perceive. But by labeling something, then we reduce it down to a simple object, and we don't perhaps fully see it. So it is a restriction, isn't it?
Yeah, so I don't look at you and go, oh, I like your right eye, Eddie, or I like your nose, That's a reductionist kind of way of thinking about it, putting a graph paper over you and saying which bits I like, Some people might suggest that's a way of seeing that is very much dominant to the left hemisphere, but I think you're absolutely right.
So I suppose we maybe limit certain things so we can deal with it, we can understand it, but that's limiting our understanding, isn't it? Strangely enough. By trying to understand something, we have to limit how we understand it to fully grasp it. There's some words for you.
Yes.
And that is going down a bit of a narrow alley, isn't it? That's narrowing our view and the reality, isn't it?
Yeah, because if we think about it, we're finite beings. I'm trying to think of Alfred North Whitehead, we both admire, and I'm sure if I can return that phrase, he said, we are finite beings, as such a grasp is denied to us. And I think it was him who said, we cannot know how much we do not know unless we are already omniscient.
So, in a sense, that if we found out that we knew things exactly as we thought they were,
yes,
then that would be terrible, wouldn't it, in many ways? But that is a kind of reductionist way that we are quite content with, it seems, because we can deal with that. Because if we go beyond that, we suddenly perhaps, definitely we cannot then deal with that because we cannot simplify it down to these elements, etc. Because then it would blow our minds, wouldn't it? I mean, I can't think of any specific words to put that in.
Bernardo Castro, the scientist, said if our minds could model the realities, then our minds would melt to hot soup.
Oh, well, there you go. What kind of soup? Particular. Yeah.
Lentil, I mean.
Okay. Well, yeah, I think.
And we limit with our sense perceptions. We call it 5 senses. I mean, in the Vedanta tradition, they would say that the mind is a perception in consciousness, but that's for another discussion.
Yes. Because this could go on.
This could go on.
There's nothing wrong with.
But I suppose what we're trying to say is that our minds are very limited, and we're not belittling that. We're saying it's brilliant, but we have to be very careful that it is just dashboard knowledge.
Yeah, and it is not the gospel truth, because then if you believe in that, which is nothing wrong with in a sense if you want to be comfortable.
Yes.
But if you choose not to simply be comfortable, then you have to open yourself up to these other realities, or shall we say, the reality. And the reality is not something that we can construct simply like that, because it is very complicated, and we probably don't have the language to understand it. Absolutely. I would imagine the best way to try and touch upon it is to be creative in your explanation of it, and that's why things like art, music, poetry, movement, etc.
Absolutely.
is a beautiful way to do that, and hence why our history is absolutely chock-a-block of those wonderful ways of expression.
Yeah. And I think that would be a lovely next video to do about the imagination a little bit.